Good evening, Tammy.
Good evening, Dr. Rob. We've got questions. So the
Okay,
first
before
one
we
is, go
start,
ahead.
can we just
Uh-huh.
take a moment? Because I was
hmm
thinking about, I was talking to the clients today at Seeking Integrity about, that they can't remember childhood because most of you really can't. I'm pointing my brain because most of that sits there
hmm
and you can't access it. But all of a sudden I had a thought about childhood and I wanted to share it here, which was, I remember my parents smoked, both of my parents smoked,
Mm.
and it really
Which was
bothered
typical
me.
back in the day. I mean,
Well,
like that
everybody
was,
smoked.
yeah.
Why did I have allergies? Because both my parents smoked the windows up. But anyway, I decided, I was like 6 years old, and I decided that I wanted them to stop smoking, and I was absolutely going to stop them from smoking. So I took all the ashtrays and I put them all away because I thought, oh, there were no ashtrays, then they couldn't smoke.
How'd
That
that
was
work?
then.
Yeah.
And that didn't work very well at all. It
No.
didn't, yeah, especially in the winter with the windows rolled up. But I'm glad those days are gone. I really am.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm glad our treatment program is no smoke, no vape. That's
Yeah.
another topic.
Thank
Dr.
you,
David talks
Karen.
about that a lot. So check that out.
Okay, well, good weave
Okay.
in. Good weave in.
First question. My husband is a porn addict and has been in recovery for 2.5 years, yet relapsing the entire time. Okay, so that's like negated. He went to Sila 5 months ago, our treatment program, but continued his behaviors. Now we are in a strict no contact, which makes life very difficult, but I'm told it's the last hope that he can possibly get sober. However, I found out he spent time with his parents who are abusive and also deeply hurt me recently by encouraging him to divorce me and saying that I am the problem. It feels like yet another betrayal and evidence that he will never get sober. Rationally, I know I'm not the problem, but if he can't see that his parents are a trigger, then how will he ever get sober? Is it possible that some addicts will never get sober? I don't know I don't know when to cut my losses, because if I had my choice, I'd take my sober partner over anyone. I don't know how to interpret what he is, if he's a lost cause or not. So I want to emphasize, if I had my choice, I'd take my sober partner over anyone. And I think addicts so often don't get that message. I mean, I'm not saying that you're not saying it. I think you are, but like, I think that they just can't even take that all in, and do the push away. So there's a lot there, Dr. Rob. What do you think?
I was just writing notes, because there is a lot there. And I want to write one more down. So what I heard was a lot of questions. And I
Mm-hmm.
heard those questions tied to what the person thought they should do. So is this true? Isn't that true? What if this? What if that? A lot of
Yeah.
questions. And these are questions that don't have an answer. You know, what is he doing? What is he not doing? Do you cut your losses? I know I'm not the problem. But if you can't see, there's a lot of trying to figure things out, like, well, if this isn't this, then that isn't that. And the immediately thing that came up to my head is, what do you want today? While you were chasing this person and your life focus is on figuring this out. If I were you, I'd be feeling emptier and emptier. And I get concerned when the entire balancing point for someone is their relationship, because this has not gone well. So I would sit down and say, this stupid thing I hate hearing, but is what I'm doing bringing me what I want? And maybe just even sitting down and saying, I want to be involved with someone who's this. I want to be at peace. Maybe you'd rather be alone than live this. I think hope you can go through a couple of times and then it becomes despair. And I really take it from the partners who earlier want to say, well, did this happen? Did that happen? They're trying to survive by trying to get that next question answered. And I hear this in a more elaborate form, which is, I'm basing my life and love on if these things happen. So whether somebody goes through treatment or not, who they decide, how do I say this? Everyone has the chance to be focused and committed to recovery. People do have slips, but this doesn't feel like someone who continued to practice the lessons that they're given. And I think that is the greatest challenge for people when they leave, is they really do get what they need, but they actually need to do it. I mean, really, really do it to the letter sometimes. And the last thing I wanted to say to you is one day at a time. I mean, when I really think about one day at a time, and I've had to really think about it, yesterday does not matter. And tomorrow is something that is none of my business. But what am I dealing with today? And a lot of what I heard from you is, well, if this, then that, and how does this fit together? And that's not happening. What are your plans for tonight? Will you chat with somebody? What are you going to do? Is there a movie you want to watch? You can take a bath. Just focus on that. And then in the morning, you can worry about all this other stuff. So I would stop looking outward for peace and start finding some for yourself in some way. That's a long answer, but that's what I got.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, like you said, I just don't cut my losses. Is it possible some addicts will never get sober? Yes. Yes, they're unfortunately, I mean, I've been in a program for a long time, and I've seen many people who have been given tools, but tools are useless if they're sitting at your feet and you don't pick them up and use them. So for those of us that decide to, on a daily basis, do what we need to do to grow on a recovery journey, it's not a smooth path. It is not like without bumps and speed bumps and hiccups along the way. But man, oh man, I can promise you that for those of us that are willing to do the work, you can see, I'm doing better than I was 2 years ago. I'm doing, 2 years from now, I want to see that I'm doing better than I was 2 years ago. I want to see that progression. Now, on a daily basis, I won't necessarily see that because it is up and down, but over the span of time, are things better? For partners, I think it's really challenging because, if you're not really seeing that things are getting better, then part of it is, can you accept that this is the person you love? And regardless of what his behavior is, can you set up, as Dr. Rob would talk about, healthy boundaries for you, taking care of you, so that that you aren't a ping pong ball, or what is it? Pinball getting bounced around by everything that he does.
I mean, they don't have pinballs anymore.
I'm old. There was pinball machines back in the day. There was a pinball wizard. That's a whole nother thing. So
that's a whole other thing. Can I say one more thing? Because I wasn't fully listening because I was really reading this again.
I appreciate that.
And the one thing that really stuck out with me is there's nothing positive in this at all. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about hope. There's nothing about love. There's nothing about this is a miserable, excuse me for saying so, but this is somebody who's miserable about their life and looking out there to say, maybe if something changes out there, I will feel better. And, there's not a lot of, there's lost cause, last chance, last hope. So,
no contact even.
And no contact. And yeah, I just feel I don't see anything like, I really have hope for us to come together, and whether he's working on it or not, I just really know we'll be at peace with each other or whatever. I work with a lot of gentlemen who get a lot of letters from their spouses at Seeking Integrity. And I know where the spouse is coming from when they don't say things like, but I'm really hopeful for how things are going to go forward. And I know despite all the pain, I love you. And I don't really hear this in that, for whatever that means. What I hear is a lot of grief. In fact, that's what I see in this.
Yeah. So, and I've shared, Debbie McRae did a great video series. You can email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, but you'll also find it on the previously recorded webinars. But she did a 2-part series on grief and the process of grieving, and, grieving the loss of the husband you hope for, the one that you were like, I would pick him, if he was sober, I'd pick him over anybody. And grieving the loss of the relationship you hope for, months of no contact. I mean, it's tough to be in a relationship with zero contact. So.
And I'll give you one more thing, is that notice that Tammy and I, and I don't know whether this is conscious on your part or not, but neither of us got into the story. We didn't get into, well, the parents are abusive, or I can't see his parents are a trigger. Neither of us talked about that, because that's the little pieces that will drive you insane. And the bigger thing to sit back and to say, if someone else is reading this, what would I say about their life? Were they happy or were they not? Yeah, hopeful or not. So anyway, Tammy, thank you for all that time. What is the next?
The next one is a betrayed partner has been 11 years in recovery and no past relationship bothers me except for one. We were together for 5 years and I was assaulted in the relationship. I have tried trauma therapy, trauma-informed yoga, helping others, and have a great support system. I don't have a great job and I'm still not where I want to be in life. And whenever I get stressed or angry or confused and hard on myself, I tend to think back to him since he was the worst thing that happened in my life. I'm not sure how to stop obsessing about my past during stressful times. Any tips?
Well, I don't mean to really be technical, but the word EMDR comes to mind because this is exactly what it's for. So there is a form of therapy. We can't answer your question, but it is very specific and really very research driven in terms of being effective in specific with specific things. And directly, it is when you start to think back and something really bothers you, the purpose of it is to reduce some of that emotional energy. So I do want to say to you, and I'm not trying to be like woo, there really is something called EMDR, and it is very successful at pointing at certain things, like you keep going to that particular thing. You may still go, you probably have some emotional, how do I say this? What I see when I was a little kid, my mom would say, don't pick at a scab. But I would pick at it anyway, and it would hurt more. But there was something about seeing how bad it was or how much it hurt that was better than not knowing. And, I understand what it's like to go back and say, how much does it hurt? Let me see, does it hurt as much as, but the reality is you can work through this. This is really to me, more of a therapy issue and a trauma issue. And, maybe you haven't done the right trauma therapy, and you might call Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. Tammy has a lot of access to different kinds of therapists, but it really does feel like a piece that, triggered things and continues to trigger things. By the way, I want to say something more practical, which is I hope you are reaching out to some of the other partners, because wounds, they're never gone. They just get brought back up by other wounds. And so just having the connection, we offer groups. They're at no cost. They're during the week. Tammy can point to the site. And we did this for situations like this, where you can sit down and say, it's been this many years and I'm still working through this. And what do you think? And people are able to, so, that's one of the primary things that comes up for me here is you sound very alone. And I wonder if you have the support, not even just of therapy, but people it's really great to say, oh yeah, I went through that. That's what they're going through. And that can be worth its price in gold. So Tammy, what do you think? I saw you going like this.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm not just rocking. I'm actually nodding my head. So yeah, like the EMDR was so valuable to me. And when you were talking about that, and I was reading too, the anger, like if I would have this anger, and I finally figured out with therapy that it was really, I was hurt. And that was the anger was the power out. But my therapist was fabulous. She still is, but but she did EMDR with me, and I never had that level of anger come out since that time, and that was hugely healing. The other thing is in recovery, and I know you're a betrayed partner, but for those of us on this side of the addiction equation, the hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and stressed halts. Like I do take kind of a barometer of like, if I'm too hungry, if I'm too, like Dr. Rob, I do intermittent fasting. He doesn't want to call me right before I eat, because if he's interrupting my eating, it's, he'll get the grumpier me. So he'll wait till after I've had lunch, so it's one of those things where, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, I have a certain amount of bandwidth. And if I have less bandwidth, I'm more likely. So then I know I need to go do something to take care of me. Stress, there's a zillion things for stress reduction you can do to intervene before you get to that, I'm over the threshold line. So yoga, great, but what else can you do? Have a whole list of things that these are my go-tos. One of these is going to work. Thoughts?
I want to add just one more thing, which is, this person said, I don't have a great job and I'm still not where I want to be in life. And then I get
Mm,
stressed and confused. I'm hard on myself.
mm,
And, you know, again, there's just one day at a time thing. If there were a way that you could stay in now and begin to think about how right now can I make my life better? You know, can you, Lord knows, and I don't mean to be prescriptive about how many jobs there are and all of that, but it really doesn't sound like you're giving yourself enough credit for not liking your job and for feeling undervalued. And that is when I turn on myself and say,
mm.
maybe I'm just not worthwhile, or maybe, and I can understand the last time I felt that not worthwhile was when all of that stuff was going on during the dating, so, or the relationship. So I think if you can find ways to really feel a positive future for you in any of these areas, in other words, not so much about fixing something, but more about having something to move toward, just from what I read there, I think it might be helpful.
I love that idea. And I think a practical thing is like, okay, like I don't have to like my job, but I'm going to be good at my job today, you know? And then if I don't, no, seriously, it's
Oh no,
for me,
that's
so
so
much of it is
you.
added. I know
That's
so
so
much of it is
Tammy
for
in
me
one
is,
statement.
yeah,
I love it.
reframing. So, but it's also, and if I don't like my job, what practical thing am I going to do? Just one little thing, you know, to do something different, you know, because you know, I can't change anything if I don't change anything. And that's true with addiction and everything else too. So, but like give yourself a little grace too. It's like, you know, we're human, part of the, welcome to the human race. We aren't perfect, and, you know, you're doing the best you can. And I love that you're here and asking questions. Like to me, that's a very hopeful thing for you. Okay, the next one is, thank you for sharing all the free resources with us. So that's, yes, so lots of resources. So the next question, hello, Dr. Rob and Tammy, you have said that one thing you can, that the one thing you can
Right.
create is willingness. I thought you
Good.
said you can't
Well,
create will.
let's
That's
just
okay.
to the
What's the
person who,
takeaway from my husband who says he is not willing to do what
right.
it takes here, and that he continued to pray for, and that he continues to pray for willingness. The addiction is a real mind F. Seeing how you have recovery is amazing. In the rooms, I have not heard any partners whose sponsors come close to your success in recovery, to be honest. Thank you.
So
It's
I
called a
think
long time. So
I have, I think I'm clear on what's being asked here. I just have more of a
yeah.
comment than anything else, but why don't you start, Tammy?
Well, she did clarify it. Yeah, correction. The one thing you cannot create is willingness. So like,
Right.
I mean, I'm still a work in progress. Trust me. You can ask Dr. Rob, you can ask my husband, you can ask anybody. So like there's plenty of room for improvement, you know. So the other thing is you know, and I say this pretty often to partners, you can't make anybody change. But if you're holding healthy boundaries for you, sometimes the addict bumping up against that, like all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm a little more willing to do something because I don't like how this feels. You know, so again, this is not on you. You haven't done anything wrong, but if you're taking care of yourself and it's different than what they're used to experiencing, that, you know, that can be that shift for you going, I'm good. I need, you know, I need to value myself. I'm the person that will value me, you know, and holding those healthy boundaries for you, you know, that can start to make things different for the person you're involved with. So that was, I wasn't willing until, I mean, I had a freaking car accident that almost killed me. And, you know, then all of a sudden I was willing. But the next day I was also going, oh, I've learned my lesson. So I mean, denial is massive, you know, with addiction. So
What happened to the car?
my story is unique. I hit a corn picker. I've never heard of anybody else hitting a corn picker. I didn't even know what one was, but I
What
made
is it?
a
A
non,
corn picker? I think I dated a corn picker once. What?
well, no, this is a vehicle that is like massive, and
Oh,
it
right.
has
How could you miss
tines.
that? Right.
Well, when you're really intoxicated, and the tines came through the window, I must have ducked it. I don't remember at the last minute, and it made my non-convertible car a convertible car. And so they called me in dead. This is pre-cell phone. This is the short version, but yeah, it was like I'm lucky I was not decapitated, but seriously, the next day I was already going, oh, I learned my lesson. I wanted to quit. I couldn't have.
I'll
I went
never
to
do that
treatment.
again.
I went to treatment thinking I could still do drugs because they were recreational. They
Which
weren't
is
really a
part of
problem.
what is in this question, by the way, which is, willingness and what does it take for somebody to, really stop and all of that kind of stuff. So I wrote a few things down. I mean, I'm in the writing mood today. And one of the things that occurred to me is the word boundaries, because I really find it lacking here. And because in the second part, this person said, can you please speak to how a family can, quote unquote, motivate an addict to go to a treatment center? How does this look? Setting boundaries are to create safety for the person setting them, but how do they approach a boundary if they want the addict to go to treatment as a first step to being in a relationship with them? So basically what that said, by the way, is I know I'm supposed to do it, but how can I not do it and do it a different way? So I wrote down.
Those are two different people, just so you know. Those are two different people.
Oh,
asking.
I thought they were tied together.
No, the correction was but they kind of tied together.
Well, because they're both about motivation. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So
no, but that's what I'm saying. They tie together, but it's not the same person, just for clarity.
Yeah, I many times, like you, Tammy, I've heard I have to pray for the willingness. And maybe you could explain exactly what that means. I think that's a very program focused thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, honestly, I've used it more in recovery. Like I have to pray for praying for the willingness to give up a resentment, praying for the willingness to do it. Because like there were some resentments I didn't want to give up. And so I had to pray for the willingness to give up the resentment, but I don't remember. I mean, it's challenging for me prior to recovery to get a grasp of that. So I don't, because then I can just keep praying for willingness. Well, God didn't give me the willingness yet. So apparently I don't need to get into recovery,
If there wasn't a relationship and he was struggling with sex addiction, I guess he can pray for the willingness to stop acting out. I mean, that's really, you're praying. What it really says is, I am not willing to stop, but I hope that, I can have the grace to stop. I remember with amends, I used to say, I'm not ready to make this amends, but each day I'd say, well, okay, I'm not ready to make it, but I hope I have the willingness to make it, And so you're right. The addiction is a real mind F. I agree with you that, but, and I also agree with you about, sorry, let me go back. There is something to praying for willingness, but the question is, will that motivate somebody? Will they actually take a different action? And maybe there could be one thing he could do today. Maybe there'd be two things he could do. This whole idea that somehow all of a sudden I'm going to start doing all these things that I haven't been willing to do is probably not accurate. And by the way, I wonder what it's like for you to sit back and see him not willing to do anything. I don't have to fully understand my problem. I don't have to fully understand everything beneath it. I don't even have to fully understand why I'm going to an online setting and listening to a meeting. But if life is unhappy, if you're really hurting, if you can see the problems, start taking some steps. We never, and I think Tammy would agree, we never expect anyone to get it when they first walk in the rooms. A lot of times, in fact, almost every time people come to Seeking Integrity is these men are in trouble and they're going to lose their marriage, they're going to lose their this, they've poisoned their work, their kids have found out, whatever, but they're not coming for themselves. When you ask them, oh, I really want to be a better person, but didn't you want to be a better person 2 years ago? Well, yes, but last week, my wife, or last week, all of that. So willingness, I think, comes when you have had enough consequences that you say, I don't want to have these consequences anymore. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to feel this way about myself. But but you have to start going to the places and doing the things and then say, I'm willing or not willing. You can be informed, not willing. So anyway, I'm going to lose my mind if I talk about that anymore.
Did you have anything on the next one with the,
I have stuff
the
on
motivate?
The next one, but that's what I was really speaking to.
Yeah.
So did you read that? You did read it. So,
How can you speak to a family that can motivate an
right,
addict to go to a treatment center? How does this look? Setting boundaries are to create safety for the person setting them, but how do you approach a boundary if they want the addict to go to
right,
treatment as a first step, if they want to be real? That's for my
right,
safety. Like, you are not safe in this relationship. Until you show me that you are willing to be on a different path, then, I'm going to need to set some safe distance for me, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to be no contact, but it can be, I'm not willing to sleep with you. I'm not willing to, whatever it is that, whatever it is for you, but it's physical safety, financial safety, emotional safety, and spiritual safety. So I think those are the things that, what do you need to take care of you? And if you lay that all out, and it isn't because you're being terrible, I'm going to do that. It's like, I need this. I deserve this. So I'm going to take care of me. You do you. And if we are able to, it sounds so trite. It isn't. I know it's really challenging, but you have no control over the other person. You cannot manipulate somebody into treatment. At the end of the day, you can set up things that will give them something to bump up against, and they can go, oh, I don't like this, like Dr. Rob was just saying. So thoughts, Dr. Rob?
yeah, I would say to you, in terms of or any of you, 37 of you, can I please speak to how a family can, quote unquote, motivate an addict to go to a treatment center? Yes, tell them to call Tammy. No one can motivate people more than her having a conversation. You think she's tough here, get her on the phone and she will remind these guys of their children and their grandchildren and the job. She will make sure that they understand what treatment is going to become. But
it's life changing. I mean, we hear all the time from our alumni now, except for the one, 5, and it isn't 100%, we fix everything. But most of these guys, the alumni, are going, this was life-changing. I hear regularly from partners and spouses, and again, not to add to your grief, but that it was life-changing for the guys that come to our program, that do the work, that follow their aftercare plan, like Dr. Rob said, to the letter. They do good. It's not a perfect life, but man, tools.
I want to jump in just with a few more things, but thanks for talking about treatment. We have a lot of people there. It's been a really interesting couple of weeks. But in terms of setting boundaries, I just wanted to say, if I am doing it to make somebody do something else, so I want you to go to treatment, so I'm not going to let you in my room, and I'm going to change the locks, and because I want you to go to treatment. And when you're in enough pain, you'll go to treatment. When you create those circumstances, what it leaves the other person is feeling angry and controlled. And that they may be, I'm angry, you're doing things to me and I don't like it. And here you go doing more things to me. That's where I end up if you're doing it for me. If you're doing it for you, and you say, I'm not comfortable with this, and you do what you want, but I need to change the locks, well, then I think the addict feels there's nothing else, there's nothing to punch at. You're not telling them, if you do this and if you do that, you just simply take care of you. And you keep saying, I really hopefully go to treatment, and I would stop pulling back if I felt safer with you, but that will be their punishment. You don't have to do this. You can simply take care of yourself. And as you move backward, even just a little bit, we tend to go, oh my God, they move backwards an inch or two. The worst of us, who say, you're this and you're that, and I act up because you're this and you're that. Just have you move an inch or two away from us, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, you're so important to me, and how can I lose you? And you go to treatment. And sorry. So the last thing is that the last sentence really speaks to me to where you're at, which is, I know I'm supposed to set boundaries for me, but how do I approach a boundary if I'm doing it to make the addict do something? And, that's at cross purposes. Which one is it? And I think you get to decide, are you acting in this way because you want to get someone to do something else, or is this something that you want to do for you because you can't do both? And the word Al-Anon really comes up for me here, this feeling that if I do this or that, then you will this or that. I think Al-Anon does a really good job of people learning, I can just say what I want and need, and I can't influence. And you know what? You're just really creating that boundary. So yeah, I think there's a little work you need to do to be really clear on what you want. Do you want to punish this person and get them to do something? Or do you want to feel better about yourself? I feel like we're saying the same thing over and over again to people tonight. We have themes, which is your life will be a lot better when you look less outward and more inward, and how you can find your own joy. By the way, the 5th season of The Crown is starting. So if people are looking for their joy, yeah, I think I'm done with that.
Okay. The next question, why is, I get this one all the time. Why is sex addiction not about sex when sex is the end result?
Because this is a process addiction. And what the word process addiction means is that we are addicted to the whole process. When I start to think about, oh, maybe I could be with this person, and maybe you're going to be away for Thanksgiving. So maybe the minute I think of you being away for Thanksgiving, my heart skips a beat, a little bit of hormones are released in my brain. I get a little bit excited emotionally. And then I think, oh, you're gone for Thanksgiving. Well, let me just look online to see what I'm going to do on Thanksgiving. Can I hook up? Can I go to massage? What can I do? Because I know already that I'm free. And the closer it gets to it, I'm thinking, well, maybe I need to make sure there's enough money in the bank. Let me think about when, you can leave a message and you won't wonder where I am. In other words, as I am preparing for it, I get incredible excitement about the fantasy, which takes me out of what's going on emotionally with me. And I become excited about that. And then that starts to move to the behavior itself, which is really distracting and really exciting. By the time I get to the actual sex, that's the shortest part of the whole thing. Because when you have a process addiction, you're addicted to the whole process. And I might have sex for 10 minutes, but I might be thinking about it for 10 days. And every time I think about it, oh, that could be exciting. And oh, they haven't called me back yet. And long before the holiday happens. So, by the way, these are opportunities. The good news about this is I have many opportunities to say, oh, look when I do that. Look when I think that way. That's when I need help. If you think about the acting out as being the shortest part, then, and this is the thing we talk about in treatment, there are so many opportunities along the way to learn what is problematic thinking and what do I do instead? What are problematic actions? This is stuff for the addict. To be able to intervene on these pieces before they get all the way to the act. So all I can tell you is, yes, the sex is like the carrot that gets dangled and the thing I'm chasing toward, but in the chase, it's really, really exciting. It's like horses going around a track. It isn't just the exciting part when they actually go across the line. Everyone's cheering when they go around. I know that's a terrible metaphor, but for us, it's about the whole process from excitement to shame. And by the way, no matter how badly we feel afterward, as Tammy said, like the next morning, I'm ready to go again, I'll feel bad for a day or two, and then all that bad feeling will fade away. And I've heard that from you spouses. Boy, after the last time and what we went through, you would think that they would have stopped this. Well, emotionally, they've moved way on from the last time, and they're all ready to bring it on again and start all over again, because consequences do not bring about change. Motivation brings about change. So, hey, Tammy, that means it's time.
That was great. No, it's all good. So the next one, I'm a porn addict, and I recently had a relapse last month. My partner is fed up, and she sees that I'm working even harder now. I want her to be able to trust me again, but even with a filter on my phone, she doubts that I'm staying sober. We are best friends and have been sharing our feelings way more now than ever, but she still doesn't believe that I'm trying my very best. And he added, I forgot to ask, what are ways I can help her trust and believe me?
Well, I appreciate that you're working harder. Again, there's to me, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it 100 times. Your focus doesn't fully seem to be on you. You had a relapse. I recently had a relapse. I didn't see, what does working harder mean? Are you going to multiple meetings a week? Are you checking in with a sponsor? Have you joined that therapy group? We teach entry-level sex addiction courses, and we teach entry-level porn addiction courses. Have you signed up for something? One of the things that one of the ways I work when I work with clients to help them avoid shame is when they're acting out, I never say, how could you do that? Or what's wrong with you? I say, you must need a lot more support. And so you need to go to 2 meetings a week instead of 3. And so in any case, your immediate turn in this is, I want her to be able to trust me again, but she doubts me, and we're friends, and we've been sharing feelings. And, I just wonder, why are you even doing any of this? Because your focus is on making her happy. And every man who comes to treatment is seeking integrity. I know this for 201. They come in thinking, this is to save my relationship. And somewhere along the way, with the hard work, they reach a level where they say, wow, this is really for me. It doesn't mean they're not terrified the relationship is going to go away, but there is something that happens when you realize that I cannot live this way anymore, whether someone stays with me or someone doesn't. And that's kind of not what I hear in here. I hear a lot of, well, I'm doing this because if they're fed up, but maybe if I work harder and I prove to them this and I prove to them that it's exactly the last question. What do I need to do to get them to do something? It doesn't work that way. What I don't see is a paragraph about, well, I've been doing this and I've been doing that. And I see too much focus on the person outside of you. So I'll go back to where I was before, which is one day at a time. What are you looking at today? What is your priority today? All of that is in the past. She doesn't trust you, can't do anything about that. And I don't know tomorrow whether you're going to act out or get married, but what are you doing today to focus on you, rather than the outcome of what you do on someone else? Because that's not why you do this work. You may come into this work saying, I want to save my relationship, but at some point you have to cross over, which I haven't seen yet, and say, I want to live differently. And you'll get there. You may have a few more relapses in the process, because look at it this way. If she goes away for the weekend in a bad mood, does that mean you're going to relapse because you're all upset that she went away? Or if she says she doesn't want to be with you anymore, is there still motivation to get well? So I would have less focus on someone else and more on you.
I agree. I put the work group, the Porn Addiction 101, starts on Saturday. There's still room. You may sign up for that. That would be an action that you are doing something. You would have a solid recovery plan. As you come out of that, you would have connection to other peers. I hope you are joining the free drop-in groups on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. Again, it's connection, healthy connection, not just with your person that you've betrayed, because you've already hurt her. I'm always concerned when I hear an addict going, what do I need to do to help her? I'm like, yes, there is help her heal and all of those things, but that's down the road. You working on having a plan to interrupt like, if you're triggered, what do you need to do? What do you need to do before you act out and have to go, oh, I'm sorry, and was it a slip? Did you tell her within the allotted time, whatever you've agreed to, or did she find out? That's a whole nother thing too. So, so filters on phones are helpful. They really are. Your therapist or your sponsor getting the report, that's really helpful. There's so much. It's a learning process. You can learn lots on our work groups and our free resources. You can learn a lot. Hopefully she is also participating in the free betrayed partner groups, and we've got a work group starting again in January. That's how this is. This is a lifelong process. I was talking to somebody earlier today and they're like, a cure. And I'm like, there's no cure for this. There's just doing the work on a daily basis so that we continue on a recovery road. In my 12-step, one of my 12-step meetings, they read, The Road to Happy Destiny. And I like, it's quirky because it's, part of the old language from the 12 steps. But I have this little vision of, all of us in recovery on the road to happy destiny, and we can be, but we got to do the work.
There are bumps on that road, by the way.
Yes, there are. Yeah, it's the road to happy destiny, but it isn't, without obstacles. Ready for the next one?
The one I just want to say to this person who said correction, the one thing you cannot create is willingness, is I absolutely agree. And I'm so glad you said that, because none of us can create that part of a person who feels like they want to be a better person. They have to want that, because the road is rough and the road is long, and you have to want something, because you're going to be doing it a long time. And I want to just say something about chronic. I know that spouses don't want to hear this, but I said to the guys today, we're mentally ill. We have an emotional or mental illness. And you can see that because if someone is depressed, then their depression will reappear when they're under stress. And when someone has mania, their mania is much more likely to reappear when they're under stress. And that stress can be internal or external. And for us, it's really the same thing. We are managing a chronic disorder that under stress, we really need to focus on how to manage. That's what Tammy meant by halts. You're under stress when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So
And stressed. I added
yes,
stress
and
a long time ago.
stressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I agree with you completely. There is a part of me that has to want to be open and ready to have it happen. So next question.
Well, I'm going to take a public service announcement for us because somebody reminded me at the beginning of this that you a couple weeks ago asked for Yelp and Google reviews. If you're appreciative of any of this work, we would so appreciate you adding to the Google and Yelp reviews. Any feedback. I also do add them. I don't personally add them, but I submit them for our website anonymously. So anything that you're willing to share, we really appreciate the help in getting the word out. So, okay.
And wait, I want to say something,
Go ahead,
Tammy,
please.
because it really isn't marketing.
No.
Because I really think our work is quite good on a whole bunch of levels. And when my experience with some of the websites is that people who are angry or upset or disappointed will write in the first, I hated that pizza, but there are 100 people who love that pizza, but they don't write in. They just tell their friend, oh, that's a great restaurant. And so we have had some folks who wrote some really nasty things. In fact, I have to tell you, Tammy, that someone bought Prodependence and they thought it was a book on how to work through their codependency. And so they went on Amazon and they wrote this scathing review. This didn't help me with my codependency at all. Now that they missed the entire point, but they wrote something really awful, which, affects how I feel like I'm viewed, because that's the world we live in. So, and I can't change it. So anyway, yeah, we've had people say good things and bad things, but we do appreciate just for our own stuff that we don't look like the worst people in the world. We're
doing the best we can. Okay. Is there a benefit from a marital abstinence period for a couple when the husband has a porn addiction, not sex addiction? If so, what are the benefits? Do you feel that there would be a significant additional benefit from a marital abstinence period if our sex life has drastically improved just since he stopped watching porn and started therapy? Is 90 days necessary, or is a period helpful? You get this a lot, you with the 90 days and all of that too, I know.
Yeah, I'd like to start with that, which there are some,
okay.
There's some kind of folks who wrote about recovery and they had some really good ideas about the porn issue, but they weren't very trained in how the brain works. And so there was this sort of equation that came out, which has really become very popular in the porn addiction community, that says your brain will reset after 90 days. And if you just take 90 days of abstinence, then your brain will reset. Well, I don't know what a reset is. Lord knows I would love a reset button on my brain, but Tammy's nodding her head too. But the brain evolves. So every day I am taking care of myself. I'm not acting out. I'm connecting with the people I love. The brain adjusts and adapts and changes. But that doesn't happen at 90 days. It doesn't happen at any set period. It happens over time as the person evolves, right? So there's no, as Tammy said, there's no answer. There's no spot you get to. It's an evolution of your own thinking and your connections. So that's the 90 days are necessary, or is any particular period helpful? Number two, I don't know what this person has done or not done, but there's something really lovely to me about being sexual with each other and enjoying each other. I think that, and I don't mean to say it's different because I know that spouses don't feel like it's different, but when someone has been sitting alone in a room in the dark, being sexual with images online, like my experience with many porn addicts, it's a really beautiful thing to me that now they are lying with you and touching with you and being focused on you and each other. And I wouldn't want to say, well, because they did this porn thing that now we're not going to be sexual. I would think like, maybe now is a great opportunity for you to connect. Now, before you all attack me, I'm going to say I'm not talking about sexting affair partners. Okay. I'm not talking about the person who sat there and hired sex workers and had a lot more going on and had interactive things. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the person who sits and looks at porn for 3 hours and they're just lost in it. The meaning of them going to connection and back to connection is strong, and it's a motivation. Connection is always a motivation. So I think the other side of it is, how you have to feel safe. And I don't know what images were seen. I don't know how it left you feeling about yourself. And, sometimes people will say, I don't look like those images. And if that's what you wanted, then why are you looking at those? And, I don't know how this has left you feeling about yourself. And you will always hear me say on this, well, wherever I talk, that if you don't feel safe with someone, if you don't trust them,
Oh, is it me?
Pammy may be zipping away.
I'm making you co-host just to make a.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Okay.
So are you, so the statement was, why would you have sex with someone you don't trust? Why would you have sex with someone that you don't feel safe with? And I know when I was dating, well, not me because I was a sex addict, but I know generally when people are dating, they don't have sex with people they don't trust, and they certainly don't have sex with people they don't feel safe with. But we feel like we should with our partners. And that's, it's been going on for a while and all that. No, you spouses need to feel safe and you need to trust. And if that means that you choose to be abstinent, that's for you. But again, in every one of these, Tammy, what I hear is, should I be sexual or not based on, will that help him or her? Will they have a benefit from us being abstinent? And I would rather you decide what you want for yourself and then turn to the addict, and the addict will say, that's okay with me. I'm allowed to do that, or that's not okay with me. Your side of the street and their side of the street. So I would feel better if it was the two of you writing together and going through this question rather than you on your own. But is 90 days necessary or any period helpful? Every period is helpful. Every day is helpful. Every week is helpful. Every month. The more time you can get, the better in terms of the recovery piece. But in terms of how long you're away from sexuality, I think that depends on how far down the rabbit hole you've gone.
Okay. Next question. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
My husband has been a porn addict for 24 years of our marriage. I have caught him several times. He finally got help a year and a half ago, only for me to accidentally witness him doing porn and masturbation in April of this year. He has been in meetings since then, but I know he lies about his recovery. He says he's not comfortable in the SA meetings as he's different. He is a textbook addict with denial lying, and he is not willing to do the work to the extent I really need him to. And that's really key, that I need him to. He said he speaks to his sponsor weekly if he really has one. I don't want to manage his recovery because it's not my job. This weekend, I asked him to listen to Dr. Rob's podcast, and he did. He said nothing afterwards. I asked his thoughts. He said nothing. I said, maybe it's good you're going away with work, as we may both need a break. He only said, I don't need you to take me to the airport. I'll drive myself. I feel like I'm trying, and he is not. He also has a habit of lying about small things, which like what he ate. So I don't know if I can continue with this.
Well, I guess just the first thing I want to say is I feel like I'm trying and he is not. That is what's going on. You are trying and he is not. So I think that you have to give yourself a break because you're looking for someone to join you in the things that you really believe in. And he's not joining you in that. 24 years of your marriage, finally got help a year and a half ago. And I promise you this was going on before that. I think this was probably going on before he even knew you. But why did he go into, by the way, people who, again, start this journey because they want to be a better person. My comment is always, why didn't you want to be a better person 3 years ago? And so this man had 22 and a half years to say, I don't want to live like this and I have problems. He lied through the whole way. So now, a year and a half ago, that's not very long for somebody to still be living the way they were living, he's still controlling this. He's still managing this. And all of that said, so I would not feel safe. I would not trust. I would be very careful about believing the things that I'm hearing, because I'm listening and I don't feel safe. The thing that went to my head is about the airport is I immediately went to, who is he meeting? Like, what is going on there that he doesn't want you to go? And I really wonder if there's more than porn. It just has that, something's missing from here. And I don't know what it is, but I think it's something we both don't know. The one thing that we both love, Tammy, is I need him to, right? I love that, because it's not that, this is very different than what other people have said, which is, you didn't say, he really needs to do these meetings and he needs to do that. And if I'm going to really go, continue this, then he needs to see that therapist. And I understand that impulse, but for you to be saying, I really want him to do this because it's what I need, I think that's a really beautiful thing, because you're speaking to your own safety, your own boundaries, and I like that much. What you're doing is kind of embracing yourself rather than pointing a finger. And I don't challenge in a negative way anyone who does that, but I don't think it's productive. Like I said, I think when you point at someone else, they get defensive. And when you talk about what you need and what you feel, they have nothing to push back against. Tammy?
Well, I think that I obviously picked that too, but I think, so I don't know if I can continue with this. The very end, it's like,
Right.
and for some people, they can't. And I think that that's one of those decisions, only you can make that. Some people are able to stay in a relationship and they just create, a space and safety support so that what the addict does or doesn't do, less impacts them. But what I hear is, within your primary relationship, the loneliness too, that he's not there. You can't even have a conversation, So one thing, maybe Dr. Rob does a one-time 2-hour expert consultations, and it can be really helpful in clarifying and validating, for sometimes it's to the partner, this person absolutely is not willing to get help, but you've at least tried, from that standpoint. Sometimes it's, dude, you are going to lose this person that you care about if you don't get help, if you don't get the reality. I'm never in these, so I'm making this up, but I know how Dr. Rob is. So, but I hear from people, consistently after they've completed one of those. It's done via Zoom. He does them with people all over the world, but it can be helpful at identifying the issues if somebody's stuck, and then guiding next steps. So.
Well, actually, I was going to mention something about that, Tammy, because I went all the way back to the first question, and actually I thought of it earlier, which is, I don't know when to cut my losses. I don't know. I want a sober partner, but I don't know if I'll ever have one. I don't know how to interpret that, is this person a lost cause or not? Or, I think those are reasons to sit with me for a couple of hours, because I think that we can figure out together, is this relationship going forward or not? I will tell you that sometimes couples go to couples therapy and really begin that process because one of them has already made a decision. I sometimes it just really takes sometimes sitting down with someone that is neutral to begin to see, I feel like this person is a lost cause. Thinking that, working that out with someone else present. We got one more, right? Because
Yes,
I know we
my
have time.
PA husband, and I think so both the porn addicted husband and the spouse think he may be a pathological or compulsive liar. Is there a difference, and does it correlate with his addiction?
My PH and I think you may be a pathological compulsive liar is, well, I don't know what you mean by pathological and compulsive. If that means sociopathic behavior, like he's stealing money from work and lies about it, that's pathological. When lying crosses the line into I'm going to do whatever I want and just lie about it, that's pathology. To me, addicts are passive by nature because we get so mad at you that we go over there and act out. So absolutely, I think that also correlates with our addiction, but we learn to lie. We learn to lie really well. And by the way, I learned to lie when I was 6. I watched a family that lied all the time.
Mhm.
I know other clients who come in and they've had a lot of physical and emotional abuse, and they learned that if they told the truth, it wasn't going to go well. And so, it may not be something that's specific to your relationship. And it also may not be so much pathological as I have a lot of clients who come in to see us who have trauma, and their lying is, and one of the things I say, I'll give you a quick answer actually, is one of the things I say to those gentlemen is, look, in fact, I say it to me about me. I know you're coming to see me therapy on Monday. And I know based on our conversations that you may lie to me on Monday. But what I expect is by Wednesday morning, you will call me on the phone and say, I wasn't being honest. In other words, I know people who simply in the moment just get, their tongue tied, they were beaten when they told it, who knows why. But what they can do is come back. You can always fix something. May not make you so happy. You may want to hear, well, I want to hear it the minute it happened. But what is more required is that there's honesty. And so to me, yes, being an addict is to lie. To lie is to be an addict. Like they're inseparable in a lot of ways. And I think that's what recovery is about, is a lot of really figuring it out, going through my character defects. What does it mean to lie? Where do I lie? How do I lie? How do I clean that up? So we don't know until he's really gotten far enough away from the addiction and then deals with assertiveness. And maybe a lot of us addicts have no idea what we need. We have no idea what we want, and except that we want it our way, by the way. So and I also want to say, you spouses, it's very important that we don't blow off small lies, because what I've seen a lot of spouses express and feel is, if you're going to lie about something minor, how can I ever trust you that you're going to tell me the truth when something really serious has happened? And so I say to you addicts, don't lie about, you forgot something at the grocery store. If you didn't really forget it, I know that's really minor, but if you come home, it's really, really important that your spouses can trust the little things. Otherwise, like, I heard it yesterday. I was at Home Depot and I texted John and I said, I'll be out in 5 minutes. Well, I really love Home Depot. And a half hour later, and he said, it's not fair to tell me you'll be out in 5 minutes when you're going to be out in 30. And it is those little things that seem minor that leave people feeling they're not important or they don't matter, or all that kind of stuff. So you really, as a recovering addict, you have to have your word absolutely meet your actions with your partners. Tammy, anything you want to add to that?
There's great questions, so I captured them. I will put them in the queue for next week. I don't normally do that, but no, I did, because I'm going to make sure that we, because they're really important questions. So please come back. Thank you all for all the great questions and the input and feedback. We're always grateful. Again, if you're willing to write a review, we'd be very grateful for that. But we'll see you next week. Thank you, Dr. Rob, as always. Really appreciate all the wisdom that you share too. It's meaningful.
Thanks,
so, yeah.
TAMI. See you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.